Hello everyone, this is Leah Whitehorse from Law Astrology, and in this recording I'm going to be talking about Mercury Retrograde in Taurus. So Mercury entered the shadow zone of the upcoming retrograde on the 7th of April 2023, and it will station retrograde at 15 degrees and 37 minutes of the sign Taurus on the 21st of April. It's going to stay in backward motion until May the 15th, 2023, when it will station direct at 5 degrees and 50 minutes of the sign Taurus. It will then exit the shadow zone on May the 31st, so the entire cycle covers from April the 7th through to May the 31st and spans the degrees 550 Taurus to 1537 Taurus. So if you have any planets or points in those degrees, then this retrograde is going to make more of an impact upon you. So generally speaking, the Mercury retrograde period provides us with an opportunity to review. As Mercury is connected to the mind, then we are reviewing what we think and how we communicate along with what we know. The subject of our review is shown by the sign, in this case Taurus. So during this period, we're asked to explore how secure we feel emotionally, mentally, physically, and materially. Mercury retrograde does tend to get a bad reputation, proliferated by the media, but I think it's really important to remember that from an astrological perspective, as this is happening, then it is necessary. It's a necessary process. And often the problems, and what we perceive to be as problems that occur during the retrograde, so for example, missed mail and delays, these are often a prompt to slow down and reconsider and try to see things from a different perspective. Mercury, during the retrograde period, moves us from human time into cosmic time. Given the position of my own personal natal Mercury, I tend to find that I'm very, very sensitive to Mercury's movements, and often the very typical problems occur. So muddles with deliveries and money issues because Mercury rules my second house of money, backtracks on plans, all this kind of thing. But every time Mercury has seemingly messed something up for me, and I might joke about it, it's always resolved, and there is always a lesson to be learned. I can always see why this has happened after it has happened and after Mercury has moved into direct motion. Mercury is always working in my favour. That's how I see it. And he's also working in your favour as well. So, Mercury retrograde in the sign of Taurus, as I mentioned, is connected to issues around security. And typically, this is a time to check in with material matters. Taurus is an earth sign. So check your bank balance, your accounts. What are you spending? What are you investing? Time, money, or energy? It's kind of like a big stock take of your life. How aligned are you to your values, and are you living by those values? Do you know your worth? Are you treating yourself well, as if you are worthy of good treatment? At a deeper level, Mercury asks that we explore how our thoughts create reality. With Mercury in Taurus, what we think has the potential to affect our physical world. For example, if we think we are unworthy, then we don't go for the higher position at work, we don't try to ask for a raise, and we don't invest in ourselves. So this is an ideal time to check in with whether you are on track to manifest your desires, or whether something is off kilter. And is that something to do with the way you're thinking about things? Check your thoughts. Consider too how you handle money and what it means to you. Look at what you buy and what that means to you. Consider too how you treat your physical body. Taurus is associated with all things of the earth, including the physical body. Think about whether you treat your body like the precious object it is. Do you feed it healthy foods? Do you allow yourself occasional indulgences? When did you last say thank you to your ears, eyes, feet, mouth, nose, hands? It's through your body that you experience this world. When Mercury stations retrograde, as I mentioned, it will be at 15 degrees Taurus, 15 degrees and 37 minutes of Taurus. And this 15th degree is the Beltane degree. So the Beltane degree in the northern hemisphere. Now, Beltane is a pagan fire festival. It's a cross-quarter day that marks the exact midpoint between the spring equinox and the summer solstice. Now, traditionally, we pagans, we celebrate it on April 30th, May the 1st, so often there's May Day celebrations. But the astronomical Beltane occurs when the sun hits this 15 degrees of Taurus. Now, during the time of this festival, it's said that the veil between the worlds is thin and the fae folk, the fairy folk, may appear to us. So it seems then that Mercury stationing retrograde on this degree is almost bringing us a message from the other worlds. But the fae, or the fairy folk, they're very tricky creatures. And Mercury too is somewhat of a trickster character. So maybe we don't quite understand just yet what this message is about. Certainly there is some kind of sense that we are almost like betwixt and between, in some kind of liminal space between now and then. And given that the moon here is also right beside Mercury as it stations, and Mercury is close to Uranus, this station feels very electric, almost like there's kind of static flying around. So once again, I feel like this is a prompt to anchor ourselves. You know, if there's a lot of static with electricity, you have to ground that. So ground yourself so that we can channel these communications from the other realms. Something else I noted in the station chart is that Mercury and the Moon will be conjunct asteroid London. And it really caught my attention because, of course, the coronation of King Charles is going to take place on May the 6th, which is during the Mercury retrograde. So technically, all eyes are going to be on London. And it's funny because it made me think about what my grandmother used to say. She was a huge fan of the royalty, but she particularly loved the Queen. And she would always say, oh, Charles, he's never going to be king. And certainly it seems like Charles doesn't have a royal astrologer, given that they've made this coronation in the midst of Mercury retrograde. But still, let's see what happens and hopefully it all goes well. But there just feels like there's something going on with this situation, with the coronation being during this retrograde and then London being right on Mercury and the Moon at the same time. Now, Mercury is also going to be in a square with asteroid Hygeia in the station chart. So Hygeia is over there in Aquarius. So part of this Mercury retrograde is going to be like a sort of reassessment of our mental health. And we need to explore where we need to take some kind of preventative action to ward off problems in the future. Maybe too, this is also a time to examine communication between friends to ensure that our social connections are healthy and functioning as they should. The Sabian symbol for the station retrograde degree is an old teacher fails to interest pupils in traditional knowledge. So I'm reading that and immediately again thinking about King Charles and the coronation and the Queen, and it seems like there's a lot of people who are very sort of disinterested in the monarchy now that the Queen has passed. And generally this Sabian symbol speaks of things that are outdated. So Mercury asks us to look at What is past its sell-by date in our lives? Where are we holding on to possessions or connections or even values that no longer align to the person that we are today? On the 24th of April, Mercury will form a sextile to Mars, and this is a repeated aspect due to the retrograde period. This aspect speaks of using the mind as a tool, initiating conversations and fact-finding missions. It's about getting really mentally clear about our goals, being brave enough to offer our opinions or to speak up. Strength of mind is another way this aspect could be interpreted, which reminds me of the recent retrograde of Mars through Mercury's sign Gemini. It's almost as though the Mercury retrograde is asking us to recall, what did you learn whilst Mars was retrograde in Gemini? So we're going back to, it was the end of October through to the middle of January this year. So pretty much all of November, all of December. What did you learn during that period? When Mars was highly active in the retrograde motion? What did you learn that has not yet been implemented or talked about or discussed? Mercury is asking us to incorporate this knowledge with this sextile to Mars. The midpoint of the Mercury retrograde arrives on May the 2nd when Mercury meets the Sun. And at this point, Mercury is Kazimi, seated on the throne of the sun, elevated. Mind is flooded with light and our cosmic messenger receives information directly from source. In practice, it often is the turning point in the retrograde period. It's the time when we understand what it's all about, what's been going on. We have some kind of revelation. The Sabian symbol of the Sun-Mercury conjunction is a young couple window shopping. So after the initial prompt to assess what we already have and consider what it is that we want, so that first Sabian symbol was like, I'm not really interested in what I'm being taught here. I kind of need something else. Something has got really out of date. So we've done that assessment. And now we're window shopping. There's so much in life that we can have. Once you make space for it, there's loads of things that are on offer to us. But the message from source is to take your time. Look at what is on offer. These people aren't buying anything. They're just window shopping. So look and see what is on offer and consider, what is my heart drawn to? Remember, Taurus is ruled by Venus, the planet of love. So what attracts you? What repels you? And why? And this is important so that you're really clear about your options. Mercury then moves on to conjoin Vesta on May the 5th, which will align the mind with what we think of as sacred to us. So there's a really strong pull to focus and concentrate on what is most important and just leave the rest to one side. And this strong practical tone continues as Mercury makes a sextile to Saturn on May the 12th. It's another repeating aspect because of the retrograde period, and it is about long-term planning for security. So Saturn, old father time, he speaks of things that will last for a long time, things that are rock solid. And Taurus is about our security. So this is long-term planning for security. It's about clarifying objectives. It's about thinking about what you want to accomplish. And it's also about using your imagination to visualize the kind of reality that you wish to create. It's about being steadfast in your beliefs, and maybe even to lean into your spiritual path if things are getting you down and Mercury is kind of causing problems somewhere along the line. Then lean back into your spirituality, into your faith, into your spiritual practice. In communication matters, Saturn will encourage us to own our thoughts and to speak with authenticity. It's talking about what we've learned and also listening to each other with respect. This is like a grown-up conversation with Mercury sextile to Saturn that has healthy boundaries, but also a really compassionate tone. On the day after this, on the 13th of May, Mercury will then form a sextile to Venus in Cancer. So essentially what's actually happening here is that Mercury is on the midpoint of a trine between Venus and Saturn. So this feels like an amazing opportunity for a constructive conversation, either about money or relationships, or maybe it's even about money in the relationship. We could also interpret this as being an opportunity to bring peace and harmony through speaking from the heart. So talk about what you love. Talk about what is important to you. This is important with this pattern between Mercury and Saturn and Venus. Mercury stations direct on the 15th of May, and it will be conjunct the North Node and also square to Pluto. I'm also noting that the moon is in a tight conjunction to Neptune at the time of the station as well. So it really feels like now we have to apply what we've learned, and we have to walk through the open door. It's like the door that the cosmos has opened for us. This is the North Node. So we have to go through this open door even if we're scared. And the moon conjunct Neptune shows that we must trust our gut instincts, follow our intuition, no matter what our fears are kind of whispering to us. The Sabian symbol of this station degree is a cantilever bridge across a deep gorge. It tells us then there is a way through. There is a way across. If we go right back to that beginning Sabian symbol of the old teacher with the young students, it makes me think there is a way to bridge the gap between generations, between peoples. We could also say that the gorge in this Sabian symbol is an illustration of the fear of falling or the fear of failing, and that faith is the bridge that will carry us across. Maybe too, we need to get over this endless tendency to try to control the future or predict all outcomes. Sometimes you just have to step forwards, a bit like the Fool in the tarot, where he just leaps from the precipice and lands on the rainbow path. The bridge is also a collective symbol that speaks of the union of opposites and connection, as above, so below, so within, so without. So once again, we are in this liminal space, a place between here and there. But now there is a clear path. Remember right at the beginning, Mercury on that liminal degree, the Beltane degree, with the fairy messages kind of whispering through the veil. But now we're starting to see this clearly. There is a bridge. There is a clear direction to go. And here is a path across something that you never thought you might be able to overcome. Maybe it's a problem you thought you would never solve. That's also the gorge, the thing that you just can't get over, that you can't deal with, that you can't work out, that you can't get past. This Sabian symbol for the station direct of Mercury tells us there is a way. We shall overcome. This concludes my reading for Mercury Retrograde in Taurus 2023. I hope you found it helpful. If you would like to hear more from me and support this channel, I do have a Patreon. I will leave the link below. And if you enjoyed this reading, do give it a like and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and I wish you many blessings on your path.